So hey guys, today I'm working on this 87 944 turbo and I have the intake off, and I thought it'd be the perfect opportunity to show you how the vacuum lines are routed. So alright guys, as mentioned, this is an 87 951. If you own an 86 model, then the vacuum routing is going to be exactly the same. Of course, if you own an 88 or a Turbo S model, then this will differ slightly, so keep that in mind. The 88 models do not have the venturi, and the Turbo S models actually have two vacuum ports on the rear of the intake. And if I ever get a chance, I'll try and make a video on those two cars. However, today I'm just going to be focusing on the 86 and 87 models, but hopefully if you do own those other models, this will help you out a little bit. So I'm going to start over here next to the firewall, where I always do. And we have this hose here coming from the fuel tank, then it tees off here, goes to the control valve, and this one here goes to the charcoal canister that's down here in the fender. Then we have three hoses. This first hose here runs along the firewall and connects to this T here, and this T is going to go to the fuel pressure regulator, and then it receives vacuum from the port on the rear of the intake, and then of course it runs over here and connects to the damper on this end, and this runs to the blow-off valve. Then we have this hose here, and it also runs along the firewall, and it connects here on the back of this temperature switch, and then the other side connects to the front of the intake here to a vacuum port there, and I'll try and show you guys that here in a moment when I get the intake on. And then you're going to have a hose here that connects and goes down. You can see it here, it goes behind that pipe and goes down and connects to the J boot down in there. Next we'll move on to the brake booster, and you can see that the hose that comes off the brake booster here goes along the firewall and connects to this here, and then you've got a hose that runs to this check valve that runs all the way over to the vacuum canister, and then this hose here continues around, goes down underneath all of this, loops around and connects here to the venturi. Then you're going to have this hose come off the venturi. It's going to go down, and then it's going to come up, and it's going to connect to this pipe here, right there. Back at the check valve here, you can see that this vacuum line here travels across the firewall, and then it tees off right here, and then you have an orange line that runs down into the interior, while this hose here continues on to the vacuum canister here. And then of course you're going to have this line coming from the interior that runs over here to the heater control valve. Back at the venturi, you can see this pipe from this angle a little bit better, and once all this is connected, it should give you a better idea of how everything goes together. But from this side of the venturi, you have a pipe that runs down underneath the ISV here and then connects to the middle port on the intake. Alright, so looking at the hose that comes off the first port of the intake here, you can see that it runs down and connects to the ISV. Then off the other side is another hose that's underneath the venturi here, and then they both connect here to this metal piece, and then together they run over here to the charge pipe as I showed before. Now looking at the cycling valve, you're going to have this hose here that connects via a banjo bolt into the charge pipe on this side, and this should make more sense once everything's back together, but for now you can see that it runs down and connects to the cycling valve here, and then you have another hose here which runs across and connects to the J boot right there. Then from this side you're going to have the air oil separator hose here coming from the J boot, running over and underneath, and then connecting right there at the oil filler neck. See if I can get around there and show you guys. So this is where that one's going to connect, and then off the cycling valve you're going to have this line here running down to the wastegate. And to just about wrap things up, you can see that this clear hose here comes from the KLR and then also connects to that rear port on the back of the intake. And last but not least, we have this hose coming off the shutoff or the blow-off valve, and it connects to this charge pipe that runs to the intake. And that's about all the vacuum lines. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put the intake on and assemble all the boost pipes, so that way you guys can get a better idea of where all this goes. Alright guys, I got the intake put back on now, and hopefully this will give you a better idea of how all the vacuum lines are connected. You won't be able to see everything now, but you'll get the general idea hopefully. And again, I'm going to start over here where this hose comes from the fuel tank. Again, it tees off, and this way it runs to the control valve, and this way runs the charcoal canister, and then you're going to have 3 lines coming off here. This one here runs along the firewall and connects to a T that's on the rear port of the intake, and then from that T you're going to have it connect to the fuel pressure regulator, and then you'll have a line run over that connects to the damper, and then off this T here you're going to have a line that runs over to the shutoff valve, and from here you're going to have a line that also runs along the firewall and then goes underneath the intake here to the thermo switch, and it's going to go to the rearmost port, and then you're going to have another line that comes off the front port, and it's going to run under the intake there, and then it connects to a port under the throttle plate there. I don't know if you can see it. I'll try and point it out, but that's it right there. There's a port directly underneath there that it connects to. And then again you have this hose here that goes down and it connects to the J-boot on this side here. Now the brake booster will follow this line here to this connection, and you're going to see this come off of it with a check valve. This way here is going to run underneath the intake into the venturi, and then this here runs along the firewall to this T here where it connects to the flap controls for the HVAC system. I'll come around this side and show you that this line here again runs to your vacuum canister. Then of course it's not very easy to see everything that's under the intake, but of course you're going to have 2 ports here in which you'll connect those pipes there. And then you can see how this pipe here comes up and connects to the charge pipe here coming off the turbo. And then you're going to have your air oil separator connect to the J-boot here. And you're going to also have this line that comes from the cycling valve connect to the J-boot here. And here you're going to have this pipe that comes from the venturi and the ISV connect to the pipe here. And then of course you're going to have this pipe that connects the shutoff valve to the charge pipe. Alright guys, I got everything back together now, so that's going to do it for this video. Be sure to like and subscribe. I upload videos like this every week. Also come join us on Facebook. I put a link in the description below. And I want to thank everyone who supports this channel on Patreon. These videos would not be possible without you. But anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.